What's up everybody on YouTube? AJ Russ back here with another video, and today we'll be talking about some of the villains, characters, and different people that I want to see in Tom Holland's MCU Spider-Man trilogy, the next trilogy. Let's get it. Alright guys, so I just got done seeing No Way Home for a third time. Yes, my third time. I told you I'm gonna go see it 5 times, hopefully. So saw it again. It's just an amazing film. Personally, my second favorite Spider-Man film. You see this shirt, the integrated suit. Man, it's dope. But before we get into all the details and everything like that, this video will contain spoilers for Spider-Man No Way Home. So if you haven't seen No Way Home, go watch it and then come back here and watch this film, because we're gonna talk about what we want to see come next with Spider-Man's trilogy. So how No Way Home ended, there's a lot of questions for Marvel Studios and Sony how they could portray MCU Spider-Man going forward. We see that he's broke now, which is crazy, because we know that he was with Stark Industry technology throughout Homecoming, Civil War, Infinity War, Endgame, all that type of stuff. But now he's just by himself, and the Peter Parker and Spider-Man that we know who he is, so he has to rely on himself, and he's all alone. We saw that Aunt May die, no one remembers who Peter Parker is, so it's just going to be interesting to see what the next take on the character will be in the MCU for Spider-Man. And for me, these are some of the characters that I want to see. And first off, we're going to get with some love interest and, you know, like some friends, people like that. So the first character, a love interest character that I want to see first, is definitely Felicia Hardy, also known as Black Cat. She's been with Spider-Man and Peter Parker throughout the comics, off and on types of things. I have a comic run actually called MCU Spider-Man, which basically they're together in that run, but you know, like throughout the comics and stuff like that, and different interpretations throughout Spider-Man medium, they're off and on, but we've never actually seen Black Cat in live action, so it's been long overdue in my opinion. And for Peter to meet her in college, that would be dope to see her in the college trilogy. You know, they could meet each other as Spider-Man, or Peter and Felicia could meet each other potentially in college. So I think that would be cool to see her, and just seeing Black Cat and Spider-Man together. I mean, that story's been long overdue to be seen in live action. We've seen it throughout the 90s cartoon and Spider-Man, throughout Spectacular Spider-Man, the TV show as well. So I just want to see Black Cat, Felicia Hardy in the MCU, potentially with Peter Parker. So she would, in my opinion, she would be a dope character to interact with Spider-Man. Going into this video as well, I also I was thinking about maybe including Gwen in this list, but after seeing No Way Home, seeing that Tom met Andrew Spider-Man, where he eventually lost Gwen in his universe, I'm pretty sure that would rub Tom Holland's MCU Spider-Man the wrong way, because I mean, like, he would be hearing Gwen, he'd be like, whoa, a Spider-Man from another universe lost his Gwen, so he would be super cautious. So I don't think that that's gonna happen. And same with like people like Harry Osborn and Norman Osborn being in MCU. I saw something about Marvel Studios President Kevin Feige basically saying that he doesn't want, I mean, he didn't really think that Oscorp will be in the MCU right now. So I don't think they're trying to do anything that's been used before. They're trying to do something new for MCU Spider-Man going into this next and second trilogy. So that's fun to see. So that's also going to be open the door for new villains. And that's getting into my next villain, where we've seen him in previous places in Netflix, and now we just saw him in Hawkeye. But I want to talk about Wilson Fisk himself, the Kingpin. As y'all fellow Marvel nerds and Marvel Studios and Marvel film nerds like me know, Vincent D'Onofrio, he returned to reprise his role as Kingpin / Wilson Fisk in Hawkeye episode 5 and 6, and even was teased in, you know, episode 2 of Hawkeye. So that's pretty cool to see him back, being from his Netflix and Daredevil days. And that's cool to see Kingpin be back, because he's obviously been linked to Daredevil as of recent time, but originally when he was introduced in the 60s, he was a Spider-Man villain. So I just want to see Tom Holland's Spider-Man go against Vincent D'Onofrio's Kingpin. We see throughout No Way Home that Tom Holland's Spider-Man, he matures for sure, and at the end, of course, he has no choice to mature, because he's by himself, he's all alone, he's his guardian, he's basically 17, 18 years old going into college, so he has no choice but to grow up, and he's going to be on a street level, you know, a friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. And we know that Kingpin, he basically controls the streets, you know, all that. We saw that in Hawkeye as well. He's trying to get the city back after the blip and all those things. So I really want to see Spider-Man go against Fisk. I think it'll be great. We saw Kingpin in the Spider-Verse, Spider-Man into the Spider-Verse. He was cool there. He even killed Spider-Man in that, and the Peter Parker Spider-Man of Miles universe, which is crazy to see. But I just think it'll be really cool to see Fisk go against Spider-Man in some type of fashion, whether it's in Spider-Man 4 or 5, or just whenever it comes natural. Of course, that's the biggest thing, just want it to come natural. Another character that's included in my thumbnail, as y'all saw in the video, is Kraven the Hunter. And Kraven the Hunter in 2023, he's speculated to have a film coming out being portrayed by Aaron Taylor Johnson, who also played Quicksilver in the MCU in Avengers Age of Ultron. So that's gonna be cool. I don't know. I mean, in my opinion, I like how Sony is doing things with Spider-Man in terms of, you know, how they're combining things with Marvel Studios. But I don't think that all these villains should just have their own movies and should all be anti-heroes, because they're not anti-heroes, they're Spider-Man villains. So with Kraven, like, I want to see Kraven go against Spider-Man. Like, for instance, we see the symbiote is back in the MCU after the mid-credit scene of Spider-Man No Way Home, so they could end up doing at some point a Kraven's Last Hunt type of story. That would be cool. I don't think that would work for Spider-Man 4, because they're still gonna try to establish the new personality of Peter Parker in terms of him not knowing anybody and stuff like that. But I think at some point they should try to do Kraven's Last Hunt in live action, or they could even do, you know, of course, Secret Wars. We know things are building up towards that, so we know that Tom Holland Spider-Man is going to get to symbiote at some point. But I really want to see him going against Kraven, because I just love Kraven as a villain. We haven't seen him in live action either. It's been long overdue for that as well. So I guess we'll see him in the 2023 film, and we'll potentially see if he ends up being in the MCU or not. But I definitely want Kraven to be one of the people that Tom Holland interacts with in his next trilogy. There's also some more villains that I wanted to name out. Of course, I want to see MCU Spider-Man go against in his next trilogy. I want to see Tom Holland Spider-Man go against Scorpion. So in the first film, Spider-Man Homecoming, of MCU's Spider-Man's Journey, Spider-Man Homecoming, we saw at the end, mid-credit scene, that Scorpion, Matt Gargan, he basically interacted with the Vulture in prison, saying that he wanted to cut Spider-Man's throat. So, and we haven't seen no payoff to that yet. So I definitely want to see Scorpion at some point. I know in the comics there's something with Scorpion related to J. Jonah Jameson trying to capture Spider-Man. So maybe something like that. We definitely got to see Scorpion at some point, because he's a dope villain. I want to see Chameleon at some point. That would be cool. Just a lot of different Spider-Man villains. People like just a lot of people like Tombstone, something like that. Like, it would just be cool to see just different type of Spider-Man villains go against Spider-Man. I mean, I don't know what Sony and Marvel Studios has in store, but I mean, in my opinion, those would be just some dope villains to see. Like, I know Kevin Feige in the past, he said that he wants to bring stuff to the screen with Spider-Man that people haven't seen before, different villains and things like that. We can see Silver Sable, something like that. Just a lot of different characters. So, I mean, the list of Spider-Man characters is endless. So, I mean, we just have to see. I just hope that everything's handled right. And then, really, in my opinion, Spider-Man, MCU Spider-Man, he's really similar to Insomniac Spider-Man, which is the Spider-Man of the PS5 and PS4 series. Next month, we also know that Morbius the Living Vampire is coming out as well. So that's also a villain I want to see interact with Tom Holland Spider-Man. We also see in the trailers that Michael Keaton's Vulture is actually in those trailers as well. So it's really confusing, because we also see Oscorp in that trailer as well. Like, and we see Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man painted with a murderer sign, which would, the murder references MCU Spider-Man. So it's really confusing in that aspect. But I mean, we'll see what happens. I mean, I really want to see Morbius go against Spider-Man. That would be cool too. But I mean, we'll see. A lot of people want Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man to be the Spider-Man of the Venomverse. So I don't know. It clearly seems as if Morbius is in the Venom universe. So I don't know. It's really confusing how they're doing things right now. But we'll see what happens. Everything is in store, and we'll just see how it transpires. Now, this right here, this is a team up that I've really been wanting for MCU Spider-Man, and of course now we get to see it into fruition. We know that Matt Murdock, Daredevil, he was in Spider-Man No Way Home, and oh my gosh, those are my two favorite Marvel characters, period. Of course, Spider-Man is #1 for sure, but Daredevil, oh my gosh, bro. I need a team up with MCU Spider-Man and Daredevil with Charlie Cox. That's literally my dream. So I hope we see that in some sort of fashion. Maybe somehow Daredevil is included in a Spider-Man movie, or somehow, some way, if Sony and Marvel Studios continue to play ball together, that Spider-Man can be included in some sort of new season of Daredevil that will potentially be on Disney Plus or something like that. That would be amazing. I need Spider-Man and Daredevil together. There's been different comic runs of them together. Also, in the 90s animated series, they had an episode together, which I loved and enjoyed. So I just want to see that for sure together. Those are two very, very, very relatable characters, and you just see their emotion in Netflix series of Daredevil. I mean, it's just a masterpiece. Like, the Netflix Daredevil series is personally my favorite show of all time, and definitely by far my favorite Marvel show, period, of all time. So just seeing Daredevil and Spider-Man, that's what I need for sure in this next college trilogy. If not in a trilogy, just with Spider-Man in general, with MCU Spider-Man and Charlie Cox's Daredevil. I need that, Marvel Studios. Listen to me, I need that for sure. Honestly, guys, I can go on and on about what I want to see with Spider-Man's new films in the MCU. Of course, at some point in time, I want to see Miles come to live action. We know that he was hinted at in Spider-Man Homecoming, with the Prowler being played by Donald Glover, basically talking to Miles on the phone. And he referred to Miles talking to MCU Spider-Man, Tom Holland, Spider-Man Homecoming, but everyone wants to see Miles in live action immediately. In my opinion, I want to give it a few films. Like, wait until like Spider-Man 5 or 6 to introduce Miles Morales. Right now, he's doing his thing in the animated films with Spider-Verse and then Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse coming out next year in 2022, and in 2023 part 2 of that is coming out as well. So I mean, right now, just wait it out. Right now, Peter Parker in the MCU is super young. Like, he's barely even getting to college now, and he's trying to get his GED. So right now, of course, I want to end up seeing Miles at some point. But Miles is getting a lot of love in the animated side and on the video games with Spider-Man Miles Morales, and then Insomniac Spider-Man 2, which is coming out in 2023. So I think that we could chill a little bit with that and just have more of MCU Spider-Man fleshed out and his story to be developed even more. Let me know in the comments down below, what are some of the characters that you want to be included in MCU Spider-Man next trilogy. There's so many type of storylines that they could take from the comics, take from different adaptations and different things. So just let me know in the comments down below who y'all want to see interact with Spider-Man and what type of storylines y'all would love to see. I appreciate y'all watching. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, and turn on post notifications. Follow me on Instagram and Twitter at SwaggyRuss. Stay tuned for more content. As you can see in my background around me, got a little different setup. Shout out to my mom and everyone who got me this Marvel stuff. Of course, you see the Marvel little logo right here. Basketball stuff with Kobe, long live Kobe, of course. The NBA stuff. And then I have like a little thing of my name with included all Marvel characters, Spider-Man, Doctor Strange, Daredevil, and then a little Spider-Man thing right here. So definitely dope. Just stay tuned for more Marvel content, guys. I love making these videos, love posting content, so just stay tuned for more. MCU in the 2022 is going crazy. We got a lot of stuff coming, so stay tuned for more content. I appreciate y'all. Be blessed.